Food labels, and food labels once again. What's up, 23% Nation? This is your man, Coach D. Today, I want to welcome you to the Success Saturday video series, where basically we teach you exactly how to be successful while on the 23% Challenge meal plan. Now, 23% Nation, today we're dealing with a very popular topic, and that is food labels. But more importantly, we're going to answer a very popular question, and that is, Coach D, what in the world is the 520 rule, and what exactly does it have to do with food labels? So, ladies and gentlemen, please listen and watch on. Why? Because today we're going to dive very deep. All right, as always, I have objectives, meaning things that I need to accomplish. So first up is Coach D's tip. Basically, this is my short-term objective. It's a little bit of advice, a little bit of information, a little bit of did you know? Now, my second objective is rather long-term, and that is to save 1 million animals. That's right, guys. Coach D is in love with his fellow earthlings, right? So let's figure out exactly how we can do them some good. All right, guys. So as you probably are already aware, this video is all about food labels. So in today's lecture, we're going to talk about everything food labels, right? We're going to talk about which nutrients we should eat more of, which nutrients we should eat less of. We're going to talk about the 520 rule and everything in between. All right, but first up, I want to ask you three very important questions. Number one, do you know how to read and understand food labels? Some yes, some no, some maybe so. Question number two, do you pay attention to food labels before or after making a food or beverage purchase? Well, we'll find out. And question number three is, are you familiar with the 520 rule? Yes, no, maybe so? We'll definitely find out. And of course, we're going to answer all three of these questions. All right, guys, let's now talk about food labels, but specifically, let's dive into the nutrition facts. So here's our sample food label, right? Now, basically, when it comes to food labels and the nutrition facts, guys, the whole purpose of a food label is to help people make good food choices. That's right. But remember something, this is based on the premise that you know how to read it and you also know how to understand it. But here's the thing. Most people don't read food labels and most people don't understand them. That's right. So my intention today is to help you make good food choices, especially while on the 23% challenge meal plan. Now, here's something else that you need to be aware of, is that food labels, but in particular the nutrition facts, are required on all processed foods. Now, let's very quickly talk about processed foods. Basically, guys, these are the types of foods that do not occur naturally in nature. In other words, they are concocted, they are created in somebody's laboratory, particularly by food manufacturers, right? Now, here's the thing about processed foods is that normally they come in bags, boxes, cans, and let's not forget bottles. Now, this could be a glass bottle or maybe even a plastic bottle. Whatever the case may be, processed foods, number one, they're not the best things for your body, right? And also, let's remember something, that during the 7 days of the 23% challenge meal plan, processed foods are not allowed. So when it comes to reading food labels, this is primarily for your maintenance plan, which is basically the plan that you're going to implement after the first 7 days of every single month. Now, here's something else that we need to be aware of, is that the nutrition facts are not required on non-packaged items. Now, what do we mean by that? It's easy, guys. We're now talking about fresh plant foods. That's right. So imagine when you go into the produce section of your local grocery store or even to your local farmer's market. Tell me something. When you pick up that apple, the orange, the legumes, do you ever see a food label on them? No, you do not. So remember something. When it comes to the food label and the nutrition facts, which are on the food label, they're primarily found on processed foods, not fresh, whole plant foods. All right, now it's time to dive just a little deeper. We're now going to talk about percent daily value, abbreviated percent DV. Now, ladies and gentlemen, 23% Nation, let me ask you a question. Are you familiar with what a gram is? Or what about a milligram, right? Well, some of us, if not most of us, have no idea what a gram and a milligram are. Well, in a nutshell, basically these are measurements of weight. That's right. But here's the thing. They're very, very small, very minute measurements of weight. As a matter of fact, it takes approximately 28 grams to equal a single ounce. That's right. And if you haven't figured it out by now, ladies and gentlemen, it takes 1,000 milligrams to equal a single gram. Now, here's the thing. Most people get inundated with counting grams and milligrams, especially when it comes to reading food labels. But today, I want you to put away your calculator. I want you to stop thinking so hard, making it so difficult, and instead stop focusing on grams and milligrams. And now, ladies and gentlemen, let's focus on percent daily value, abbreviated percent DV. Now, what exactly is percent daily value? Ladies and gentlemen, it's a guide to the nutrients in one serving of food. Basically, it's a guide, as I've already stated, that lets you know whether or not a food or beverage item is a good source or not a good source of any particular nutrient. That's right. So here's a quick example for you. If a label lists 45% for calcium, it means that one serving provides 45% of the calcium you need in a single day. That's right. So when it comes to percent DV, percent daily value, ladies and gentlemen, it is a much easier way to assess whether or not a food or beverage item is good for you or not. Is it healthy or not? Is this going to make me healthy or is it going to make me unhealthy, right? So from this point forward, let's get away from counting grams and milligrams and instead, let's now focus on percent DV. All right, now that we've talked about, or shall I say now that I've introduced percent DV, ladies and gentlemen, 23% Nation, it's now time for me to introduce to you the 520 rule. Now notice I said 520, not 420, right? All right, guys. Now here is the 520 rule simplified. Basically, if the percent DV for any particular nutrient is 5% or less, then the classification is low. Versus 20% or greater, the classification is high. Now, for some of us, that may be very, very easy to remember. It may be very, very simple for us to learn, right? But here's the thing. This simplified version of the 520 rule, for me, for you, it's way too simple. So now what I want to do is I want to expand it just a little more. I prefer to give you more details. So let's go ahead and talk about it. All right, guys, now let's look at the 520 rule in detail, shall we? All right, so here we go. So, ladies and gentlemen, if a food or beverage item offers 0% to 9% DV of any particular nutrient, then that food or beverage item is not a good source of that particular nutrient. Next, if the food or beverage item offers 10% to 19% DV, then that food or beverage item is considered a good source of that particular nutrient. Next, if a food or beverage item, and we can also throw in condiments as well, If they offer 20% DV or greater, then that food, beverage, or condiment item is an excellent source of that particular nutrient. So now that we've expanded on the 520 rule, let's now apply it to a food label. All right, now it's time to practice. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to start at the very top and we're going to go all the way down to the bottom. So let's get started. So first things first, when reading a food label, but specifically the nutrition facts, we first have to understand what a serving size is. Now, for the sake of this video, we're going to use this sample food label. Now here it says that a serving size is a single slice. Well, to be honest with you, I really don't know what food I don't know what food this food label pertains to, but being that it says that a serving size is a single slice, maybe it's a slice of bread, it could be a slice of pizza, or maybe a slice of cake or pie. All right, now let's talk about amount per serving. First, let's talk about calories. Now remember something. When you read a food label, it's only based on a single, and once again, a single serving, not the entire package, but a single serving. Now, based on what we just said, we already know that a single serving is one slice. So, per slice, we're going to get 160 calories. That's right. So if we eat 2 slices, well, all we have to do is multiply 160 times 2, which I believe will give us 320. Now, let's talk about total fat. Now, as you can see, total fat is 10 grams, but as I've already mentioned, we're not going to get stuck on grams. Instead, we're going to focus on percent DV. So, as you can see, the 10 grams is equivalent to 15% DV. Now, based on the 520 rule explained, right, or detailed, we know that 15% falls between 10% and 19%, which basically means that this food item is a good source of fat. Now, let's move on to saturated fat. Yes, it does offer 2.5 grams, but honestly and truly, do we really know how much 2.5 grams is? Probably not. So, instead, let's focus on percent DV. Here it says 11% DV. So, based on the 520 rule detailed, right, we know that 11% DV falls in between 10 and 19. So whatever this food item is, it is a good source of saturated fat. Next up, let's move on to cholesterol. Now, it says 0 milligrams, which in my opinion is a great thing. So yes, the percent DV is 0%, which means this is not a good source of cholesterol. Next up is sodium, coming in at a whopping 300 milligrams, right, per serving. And so this 300 milligrams, we're not going to focus on that, but what we're going to focus on is the percent DV, which means 12% DV. So whatever this food item is, whether it's a slice of bread, a slice of pizza, or a slice of cake, we're going to say that it is a good source of sodium. Now let's talk about total carbs. 15 grams. Remember, we're not going to focus on the grams. Instead, we're going to focus on the percent DV. Now, it comes in at only 5% DV, which basically means whatever this food item is, it is not a good source of carbohydrates. Now let's move on down to dietary fiber. Now, as I've already stated in many of my previous videos, that fiber is what I like to call nature's plumber. That's right, guys. It keeps your tubes clean, right? Oh, and by the way, it also helps to feed your gut bacteria. That's right. Now, for this food item, we're going to say that, yes, it does offer 1 gram of fiber per serving, but we're not going to focus on grams. Instead, we're going to focus on percent DV, which, as you can clearly see, is only 3% DV. So unfortunately, this food item is not a good source of fiber. Now, let's take a look at a few of the vitamins and minerals. So vitamin A comes in at 0% DV, not a good source. Calcium comes in at 45% DV, excellent source. Thiamine comes in at 8% DV, not a good source. Niacin, which by the way is a B vitamin, comes in at 6% DV, not a good source. Now let's take a look at vitamin C, coming in at only 4% DV, not a good source. Then we have iron coming in at 6% DV, not a good source. And lastly is riboflavin, another B vitamin, coming in at 6% DV, not a good source. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you can clearly see, whatever this food item actually is, it contains a good source, not a good source, and also an excellent source of different nutrients. Now, here's something else that we need to be aware of. Notice on the left-hand side that we do need to limit some nutrients and we also need to get enough of some nutrients. Now, let's first talk about the nutrients that we need to limit. Notice that they're highlighted in blue, such as total fat, saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, and sodium. Ladies and gentlemen, here's what we need to know, is that if you are eating foods and drinking beverages that are good sources, if not excellent sources of these particular nutrients, then unfortunately you are doing your body a lot of harm. Why? Because these nutrients really do go hand in hand with the big four. And let's quickly remember, the big four, that simply means heart disease, cancer, type 2 diabetes, and yes, obesity. Now, let's talk about the other nutrients. Now, these are the ones that are in yellow, and it says get enough of these nutrients. So in particular, they're talking about fiber, vitamins, and minerals. Now, guys, here's what we need to be aware of, is that these yellow nutrients do just the opposite of the blue nutrients. Rather than cause sickness, illness, and disease, these nutrients do just the opposite. They promote health and wellness within the body temple. So the next time you eat or drink something, please look at the food label, employ the 520 rule, and make sure that whatever you're eating and or drinking, that when it comes to total fat, saturated fat, cholesterol, and sodium, you definitely want to make sure that those percent DVs are on the lower end of the spectrum, right? Preferably between 0 and 9%, meaning it's not a good source of those nutrients. On the flip side, when we talk about fiber, vitamins, and minerals, well, you definitely want to make sure that whatever you're eating or drinking, that those nutrients are on the higher end of the of the percent DV scale, right? So try to eat foods and drink beverages that have at least 10% DV for all of those nutrients. All right, guys, so that's food labels. Now, let's transition into Coach D's long-term objective, which is to save 1 million animals. Guys, recently I came across an amazing website, and it happens to be called vegancalculator.com. Vegancalculator.com. And so here's what they have to say. They say that eating a 100% plant-based diet for only 7 days saves 7 animals. That's right, guys. So for those of us who absolutely adore animals, and I'm talking about all animals, right? If you want to save them, then all you have to do is change the way you eat. Now, of course, this could be a permanent change, but I say let's just do it for 7 days, preferably the first 7 days of every single month. Now, a lot of you may be saying, all right, Coach D, I like animals as much as you do, right? But I'm a little curious. What kind of animals are you looking to save? Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm basically going to divide this answer into 2 parts. Number 1 are the animals that we eat for food, right? So we're talking about basically farm animals, cows, pigs, chickens, goats, lambs, bunnies, you name it, shrimp, crab, lobster, fish, right? Now, the second type of animal that I'm looking to save are those animals whose natural habitats are destroyed due to the standard American diet, right? Recently, I came across a very powerful, impactful movie, and it's called Cowspiracy. And basically in that movie, they share that animal agriculture is the biggest contributor to water pollution, air pollution, species extinction, uh, global warming, right? I mean, you name it, animal agriculture is responsible for it. That's right. So here's what we have to understand is that how we eat not only affects our health, but it also affects animals, and of course, it most certainly affects planet Earth. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you love your body, if you love animals, and if you love planet Earth, then please consider joining me in on the 23% Challenge Meal Plan. 23% Nation, I need your help. Actually, I need 145,000 people to join in on the 23% Challenge Meal Plan. All right? Now, remember something. It's only 7 days long. It's the 1st through the 7th. That's right. That's it, guys. 7 days, plant foods. You're going to improve your health. You're going to save animals, and you're going to save planet Earth. 23% Nation, I hear you. A lot of you say, all right, Coach D, thank you for explaining food labels in the 520 rule. Thank you for helping me to help save more animals and save planet Earth. So you know what? I want to help. Well, guys, help is on the way. I've actually teamed up with Fiverr.com. That's right, guys, Fiverr.com. And I'm very happy to say that I have my own gig there. That's right. Basically, it says I will create a 7-day plant-based vegan meal plan specifically for you. Now, yes, there are vegan meal plans that are currently on the market, but I gotta tell you something. They're not like mine. That's right. Why? Because, well, number one, you customize your meal plan. That's right. You get to pick the plant foods that you already know, the ones you already eat, and the ones you already love. On top of that, you get a health assessment. That's right. And then last but not least, it's going to come with a workout plan. That's right. I'm looking to help make you healthier. Now, yes, you do have a choice. You can do the vegan lean or the vegan bulk. It's up to you. Do you want to add muscle or do you want to lean out? Let me know. But all you have to do is go to the description box, click on the link, and it'll take you directly to my gig. You place the order and we'll go ahead and get started. It's time for our question of the day, and this comes from yours truly and the rest of the 23% Nation. We want to know, what is the 520 rule and how does it pertain to food labels? Now, I believe I answered this question earlier in my lecture, so please write your answer in the comment box below. Guys, I want to thank you for watching. I definitely want to thank you for listening. As always, let's eat well, feel well, think well, do well, be well. And please, don't forget to use our 3-word mantra. It's hashtag eat more plants. As stated earlier, my name is Coach D. I'm signing out. Always remember to take care. God bless, and never ever forget that Coach D loves you.